welcome again to the Night Porter YouTube channel, where I talk about everything to do with the band Japan. Now, today is going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to be sticking just to Japan. I'm actually going to be talking about travelling to Japan, Tokyo specifically, and where you can find records by Japan or any other artists that you want to collect. I've been to Japan a number of times now, so I know my way about fairly well, especially Tokyo, which I think is probably the best city in the world for record shopping. Don't get me wrong, other Japanese cities have all got record shops, they most definitely do, but I think for the sake of brevity and to really cover where you get the most in certain areas, I'm going to focus on Tokyo. So obviously I can't really talk that much about just going to Japan. There's probably a lot of other videos that you can find online about how to get to Japan, what the different airlines are like, what the different hotels are like, and all of that. I know it's something people have asked about, but all of that you can probably find elsewhere on YouTube from, some really sophisticated channels. I have to say, what I normally try to do, I fly from the UK. I try to get a direct flight if I can. And also, time of year is quite important for me. So I tend to tie in visits with something else that might be going on that I'm interested in. Like, for example, in 2025, I went to a sumo tournament. I went to the Ryuichi Sakamoto art exhibition that was happening at the time. Also a Makinomiya, a Pizzicato 5 concert, and other things like that. So I tend to plan my trips quite a way in advance, and as I say, I'll try to have a bunch of things to do in the one trip, so I'm getting the most value out of it. So it isn't just about record shopping, although it's a fairly big element. So when I stay in Tokyo, I tend to stay fairly central, somewhere near the Yamanote line, for example Shinjuku, and that really helps navigating, to be honest, because you can get from to just about anywhere in Tokyo if you're on near in a hotel which is near to the Yamanote line. So Shinjuku is ideal, but it's not for everyone. It can be quite loud and quite busy, but I like that, so I'm happy with Shinjuku. So what we're going to look at today is we'll look at three main areas where I know that there are great record shops. I've been in them in the last year. So there's going to be Shinjuku, Shibuya, and also Nakano. So Nakano, really easy to get to. If you're going from Shinjuku, you need to get the Chuo line, that's the orange line, and it's just a few stops out to Nakano Station. So as soon as you arrive at Nakano Station, which is a reasonably small station, you need to walk out and find the exit for the Sunshine Mall. So the Sunshine Mall should be facing you straight ahead when you come out of the station. Now I know in the past year they've been doing some building work, so things may have changed slightly, particularly if you were to go left out of the station, but in this case you really just need to go straight ahead. So you've got right in front of you, probably see some bus stops, but then past that is the entrance to the Sunshine Mall, which is like a covered street, very traditional sort of thing you see in all over the place in Japanese cities. These covered shopping streets, they're popular because it rains a lot in Japan. So to find the first shop to look at, you just want to go straight through the Sunshine Mall, keep walking until you reach a big sign saying Nakano Broadway. And if you go into Nakano Broadway, each floor has got different shops on it. It's like a bit like an indoor market, but more established sort of little shops. The only thing I could compare it to is something a little bit like Affleck's Palace, I suppose, or maybe Kensington Market as it used to be in the 1980s. Basically, you've got an awful lot of different shops selling anime goods, vintage magazines and posters, um, movies, and of course you've got several shops which sell, records, CDs, music DVDs, and things like that. So some shops actually include all kinds of collectibles, so it's worth dipping your head into all of these places to see if they've got some vinyl or CDs there anyway. I've certainly found a few bargains just by finding things in random shops where you wouldn't expect them to stock music, but they do, as well as everything else. So then, my favourite shop in Nakano Broadway is called Nakano, spelt just like the old 1970s, 1980s modelling kits, and it exclusively stocks electronic, post-punk and new wave music. So it's run by a guy who is an old fan of acts like the Plastics, YMO, things of that ilk. He was actually part of the scene. He knew the bands. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He's got a kind of an infamous sign at the shop which says "No City Pop," because I think he was getting sick of always being asked for City Pop records. Which he's probably got some artists in his shop that have done City Pop music, but they're also known for their sort of electronic music or new wave music. Sort of looking at Taiko Wanaki, Kikogano, people like that. But his shop is the one to go to if you're specifically interested in the sort of YMO side of things as well as Japan. He's always got Japan in stock, always got YMO and Sakamoto, etc. in stock, and he'll have a good range. He has good prices as well, fair prices. But the main thing is you're going to find things in Nakano you're probably not going to see anywhere else. He's also a bit of a craftwork specialist. Depeche Mode, Human League, anything like that, anything kind of from that early 80s era, he will stock it. Very well organised shop. It's not the biggest, but the beauty of it is that it does not tend to get crowded. Whenever I've been there, I've normally been the only customer, or maybe there's just been a couple more, and we haven't necessarily been looking for the same thing. So it's nice to browse. He doesn't speak much English, but he's okay. And I think that if you say what you're looking for, he will help you out straight away. What was incredible to me was when I went in there, I bought a few things, and I was with someone who's Japanese, and they explained that I like Plastics, and he actually pulled out a live recording of the Plastics that for me to have just bundled in with what I bought, and it was something that had not been released commercially. It was like a better version of something that they'd put out partially on a release, I don't know, 20 years ago, something like that. So it was that was a real bonus, a real find. But yeah, Nakano, excellent shop. I can't give you specific directions. You just need to go into Nakano Broadway and go on the floors and you will find it. It's sort of got a corner spot, so you can't miss it. But, it's sort of near to a couple of cafes. It's near to a shop which sells vintage magazines, which is a really good, interesting look as well. So I think it's well worth the trip just for that. And then if you leave Nakano Broadway, go down to the ground floor, back out into the Sunshine Mall, but then don't walk all the way down to the exit again. If you go out the side, but if you're coming down the stairs from Nakano Broadway, take a right, okay, and then you want to head out onto the main street. Now, there used to be, may still be, but it was due to be demolished, the Nakano Sunplaza, which is a very distinctive triangular shaped music hall. I'll put a picture up that Japan played at a few times, especially during their last concert tour in 1982. But yeah, pivotal venue for sort of 80s rock really, because a lot of acts have played there. It's a fairly large hall, but not as big as the Budokan. So you would find that a lot of Western acts would play the Nakano Sunplaza if they were not filling out the Budokan, for example. And in Japan's case, they could sell out the Budokan, but they just did a bunch of other concerts there as well to kind of satisfy the fan interest, because they were so popular that they could, sell out multiple nights. I'd say that Nakano Sun Plaza is probably about the size of Hammersmith Odeon, maybe a little bit bigger. But anyway, if it's kind of like a pilgrimage spot for me. But the good thing is, as well, there's another couple of record shops just sort of adjacent to it on the main road. If you were to go out onto the main street but stay on the pavement on the left hand side, walk a few steps, and you're going to find two record shops there. Now they are combination of CDs and vinyl. When I went there last, there was vinyl upstairs, it was CDs downstairs. Great prices, good rarities. I picked up a copy of Obscure Alternatives there with the flexi disc that was given away free, included. Absolutely mint, absolutely perfect. It's just over there. Yeah, so that was a nice little find, to kind of bit of a collection upgrade, if you like. I think one thing about buying vinyl in Japan is that it's a bit of a cliche, but it's true, that a lot of Japanese people tend to take care of their records. It's because they were so horrendously expensive back in the day that people treated them with care. Also, it was very popular, as something I did when I was younger. I would just get a new record, immediately record it onto cassette, and then listen to the cassette, so that I wasn't risking damaging the record. And I think that seems to have been a habit of younger Japanese people as well. So yeah, so that's Nakano. Kind of like, not so much there in terms of numbers of shops, but I just think it's really worth going to. The whole Sunshine Mall is a vibe unto itself as well. You've got marvellous ramen places to eat. You've got useful pharmacy in there. Further back, you've got a supermarket. You've also got local shops that people would use rather than tourists would use. Although Nakano Broadway is famous now, I think that a lot of the other shops around it don't necessarily get used much by visitors. So I'd recommend having a good look around, because you might find some bargains. I've seen some vintage stores there as well, things like that. It's just a nice little area. It's a historical area. Sakamoto lived there for quite a while. And there's been quite a lot of nostalgia about Nakano, probably because it didn't change quite as quickly as, say, Shibuya or Shinjuku. So you do hear people having sort of nostalgic feelings about Nakano and about that whole thing. So then, next area we'll go to, you hop back on the Chura line, back to Shinjuku, and we'll talk about Shinjuku a little bit.